Yeah, 1 second. Okay, we're recording. Then I'll present. Whoops. 1 second. I need to share screen. Okay, share. All right, now let's present. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Abir, and I'm joined today by Yusuf and Rishi, and we're going to talk to you guys about Firebase.
All right, so what exactly is Firebase? It's a backend technology developed by Google, and it's basically a toolkit that helps programmers who are building their app take care of the stuff that would be tedious and, you know, kind of repetitive and I guess what would not be involved in like the unique process of like a program. And so it provides a lot of again, like the simple like tasks that would otherwise have to be hard coded by the programmers, such as authentication, real-time databasing or database hosting, and a slew of other stuff. And so in the diagram, you can see traditionally what would be done by a programmer would be to, when they're creating their app, they have the servers and then software development kits. But basically Firebase just takes care of all of that and kind of reduces the workload for a programmer. So one of the things that Firebase offers is authentication. And as you can see on the right side, have this is basically a UI, Firebase UI example template that shows what you can do with Firebase UI. So you have multiple options, such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, email, etc. And so Firebase allows easy easy access to all of these for the client. Basically, yeah. So
yeah, and
this,
I'll fill in a little bit more here. Sorry to interrupt you. So, generally, when dealing with authentication or authorization for any website or web app or whatever it may be, generally there's people recommend not using your own form of authentication, and they say, so whenever you're on a website and you see, continue with Google or sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, GitHub, Twitter, whatever it might be, those are often the best forms of authentication, because when you are manually storing, user passwords, or whether they're hash passwords, you're keeping track of a lot of the sensitive information. And by chance, if you are to get attacked, or for whatever reason some of that information gets out, you will be held responsible rather than these companies. And Firebase allows you to easily, I guess you could say, conjoin or add this to your app and then integrate it easily with the workflow of your app, regardless of what service you choose for authentication. Or you could even, sign in with the classic email, password, or phone and set up a strong, secure authentication database, if you will. And yeah, I guess we'll continue along.
Basically, it makes everything. It gives you third-party options with ease.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm going to talk a bit about the free NoSQL databases that they give you access to. So Cloud Firestore and Real-Time Database are two of these NoSQL databases. And so basically, like, the way it works is that, well, so Cloud Firestore is basically, it's very similar to a real-time database. Like, it's stored in like a tree-like structure, and it's pretty organized. Like, you have collections and documents, and each collection has documents within it. One difference between like real-time database and Cloud Firestore is when querying. Cloud Firestore, their queries are shallow by default, which means that you only grab documents from the collection. Like not other sub collections. That's different from real-time database where you get all documents beneath the collection, which like if you only want a few like data like points, then Cloud Firestore is better in that regard. And yeah, so I just kind of mentioned querying, but basically querying is just like the process of finding things in your database. And yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to do with Firebase, like to perform whatever queries you want. You just want to like input the collection, the name of the collection you want to query, and you can also set like specific like fields that you want to search. So if you only want like certain values depending on, let's say, location, then you can do that. It's a really handy tool. And yeah, to connect to your app, there's a service key, and that's just like your that's your specific like authorization. And yeah, you can build serverless apps because everything is stored on the cloud, the Google Cloud, and you can do everything you'd want to do, except you don't need like your own server. And yeah, hosting with Firebase is pretty easy to do. So you can just look up like firebase.google.com and just follow the instructions. It'll tell you to first like install the Firebase CLI, as it says on the slides. And then, yeah, you can just follow the directions. You do need like Node.js first, I believe. And then, yeah, you just go through that and then like use the command Firebase deploy. And you also have to like initialize, like if you already have like an HTML file, you want to make a website, you have to like initialize that. But yeah, it's pretty easy. And then all like the backend stuff you'd want to do, like if you did have a server, you can just do through like Cloud Functions, which is a little bit more complicated. I can't really explain it that well. But yeah, you basically have all the things that you need to make a website for free.
All right. So lastly, one real neat feature that Firebase has is what they call Cloud ML functions, or Cloud ML Firebase functions. So if you were making a regular app and you wanted to have some sort of machine learning computation that you do on whatever data that the user sends in or whatnot, often you would have to sort of host this model or host whatever computation it does on a central server. And one thing with machine learning is there's a lot of data involved, and on top of it, a lot of processing power is necessary, which could definitely cause, server costs, or even, energy usage, and those just general costs associated with running these models to sort of ramp up dramatically if you were to host it on a regular server. So one thing that Firebase offers are these Cloud ML functions. There are a few, pre-built ones for basic, object detection, language recognition, and yeah, so just some basic tasks that are already available in Firebase, and you can simply, integrate those into your app. But you can also, create your own model on the Google Cloud, or make a custom TensorFlow Lite one. And what these will essentially do is allow computing to take place on a physical device, like on the user's device, when they are using this app that has this machine learning computation added in. And yeah, I just thought it was a really neat feature. But yeah, that's pretty much it for our presentation about some of the capabilities of Firebase. Before we go into the live demo, just quickly, are there any questions? All right. If there are no questions, then I'll go ahead and, yep, we'll get out of this presentation. And so essentially for this live demo, I want to just show you guys what it's like using well, yeah, using Firebase. So if not, I mean, anybody who has a Google account can, use Firebase. It's free to create an account and things like that. So we'll go to the Firebase Developers Console, and all my projects are shown right here. For right now, first I'll show you guys what a project will look like. So database demo. So as you can tell by the name, I believe I use this for like creating like a simple like what's in your library app. So I'll go to my Firestore database, and as it is a library collection, so I have one collection right here. It's called books, and within it I have all these documents which have their own hashed out unique identifier or primary key. And within each document is a set of fields. So we have one for authors, which is the author of a book, and then the title of the book. So as you can see, so this is all the data. Oh, looks like we have a book. Actually, yeah, this is fine. So yeah, these are just the books that I have stored in this collection of books. So I tried to integrate this with a actual web app where I'm able to display what books are in my library. And also I'll just show you. So here's like this is done in Node.js, and I had React for the front end. So essentially what we have is we have to sort of connect Firebase to our whatever app or service that we're building. So we have what's called a service account key. I mean, I'm showing this now because it isn't too important to me. So whatever happens should be fine. And then we need to, get the Firebase packages installed and link the service account key to the Firebase package. And then in our backend, so here I just have some, default, books that I have the option of adding into my library. But here are the routes that I'm able to connect to the Firebase database. So we can get the books, or we can add books. And I don't believe I have connections for delete working. And I also tried to leverage the Google Books API so I could, generate a whole list of books, and then you can add whatever you wanted, but I wasn't able to do that. So for the purposes of this demo, I just hard coded a few in. So why don't we go ahead and run this app? So npm run dev server, I believe is the. Okay, so this is listening on localhost 8000, and then let's start the front end up, npm start. So this is to start the React app, and we just wait a second and it will automatically come up with a website or our web page. Okay, starting the development server. Yep, here we go. Okay, if it'll load, yeah. So here is our web page. It's lacking some front end aesthetics, but so as you can see, the books that you currently have saved. So each of these entries correspond to a document in our database. Let's see, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 documents, and we have 9 entries in our database. So what we can do is, so this is demonstrating, the get features, and this is persistent. So what I could do is reload, and it's always going to show up. It's what's called persistent data. Whenever a user relaunches or changes something in the app, the data and all modifications to the data are stored. They're kept. That's what's called persistent. So why don't we go ahead and add a new book to our database, or our saved library, if you will. So why don't we add random book by John Stape. So if we save, and so I think we got a new entry. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we have 10 entries now in our documents database. Where did it go? We're looking for a random book, I believe. Yep, yeah, John Snape, the random book. And if we are to reload our actual website, we should have random book. Yep, now we have 10 entries. So that's a very simple demonstration of how you can leverage this Firestore database or even real-time database into your web app very easily and for the most part cost-free. I will say there's one caveat with this. Whenever you send, I believe it's more than 50,000 requests to a single database, it will sort of cap off at that. If you want to use more in a single day, there is an associated cost with that. But yeah, that's it for that part. Now, one thing I want to do is sort of show you what goes into the creation of a new project, at least on the Firebase console side. So why don't we add a project? And why don't we call this something like Google DSC demo _ demo. Oh, can't use any of those. Okay, there we go. Continue. I mean, if you really want, you can have these Google Analytics. Oh, whoops. Okay, create project. Takes a second. All right, we're good to go here. So our project is ready. We can hit continue. So now we can do whatever we want within this project. Since we stuck, well, let's stick with this Cloud Firestore thing. I would say it's one of the, one of the best uses, at least in my opinion. So let's create a database. And of course, we want to put it in test mode. And generally, you will, generally, if you don't, make any edits or do anything, you have like a 30-day period to sort of do all this testing before it sort of switches to a production type thing. So let's go next. After you set the location, you cannot, yep. So we could really do anything. Since we're in the US, why don't we find a US server to store our data on? Probably multi-region. Yeah, let's just stick with US Central. Enable. This might take a second. All right, yep. So here we have our database. It's empty right now, but one thing we can do is within the database itself, you can sort of start creating the schema or the structure of your database. So this is DSC demo. So why don't we do something along the lines of making a database for our Google Developer Students Club, like members. So we'll make a collection called members. Okay, next. And we could have like a general template for our, I guess, the documents that we want. So we have a document ID. This is the unique identifier, which is sort of that hashed out set of characters I showed earlier. Generally, I'd say the best thing to do is just create an auto ID. Now fields, let's have name and test user. I guess it could be a beer grande. And then why don't we have something like location, and we'll say Virginia. So this is going to create our first document in the collection, and we can essentially, so we have a location, name. Now the thing is, when we add documents to this collection, one thing about NoSQL is there's no, designated structure for each, I guess, row. As it is document based, you have a lot more flexibility on how many fields you can add. So I won't go into too much detail about that, but yeah. So that's it for our Firestore demo for the most part. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of getting that service key and integrating it into your, your whatever web app or application that you want to make. So one thing, we go to project settings, which is on the left side right here, and then service accounts. And what we want to do is, so we have what's called this admin SDK configuration snippet. So for this project I had right here, I got the Node.js version, but say you had like a Python backend or you worked with Go or Java, you're able to sort of copy this and add it to this file like firebase.js. That's where I had it. So you can do that. And then you want to generate new private key. So you generate it and it's going to essentially be a whole lot of hashed out characters, which, and from here to here, this represents your service account key. And now one thing that I want to sort of point out, whenever you are, working with sensitive information that's held within your app and you want to say host it or store the code on a repository, it's always important to make use of a git ignore. So as of now, this is just a sample demo project. I don't care too much about security, but one thing I would do is if I were to put this onto, say, GitHub as a repository, I'd want to make use of this git ignore and include the service account key.json as a file in here. But yeah, I suppose that's it for our intro to Firebase. Yusuf, Rishi, anything to add or?
No, you've about covered the basics in the demo, so I
Sounds
think that's
good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Great. Any other questions or anything or? Just wait a few seconds. If yep, I mean, if there's nothing, then thank you for listening, and yeah, enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday break. Hopefully, it can be nice and relaxing, and not much work that I need to do or any of you guys need to do over the break, but we'll see. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
See you.
See you.